Hello, race fans. Peter Mackay here, welcoming you to the season opener of the Apex Racing Academy F3 VRS Super Series. Joining me in the commentary box today, here from Autodromo Nazionale Monza, is my wonderful colleague Brian Delp, and bringing you these beautiful images and graphics is Marco Barbanera. Brian, last time we were commentating together, we were in Canada with little Porsches. Now we're at Monza, one of the most historic racing venues anywhere in the world, with some pure single-seater racing. How are you feeling heading into this one?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I'm excited for this one. These are definitely some different cars than what we got to do before. They drive completely differently, and we're going to see some different action with these things. And here we are at Monza, which is going to be a very quick track, especially without that first chicane. So I think we're going to get to see some great battling throughout the field and get to see some great racing all around as the series progresses throughout the full races.
Absolutely. So we have 5 races coming up through the season at some iconic tracks. But let's have a look at what to expect here today at Monza. 28 degrees centigrade ambient temperature and a track temperature 37 degrees centigrade. So that's going to be really hot, slick and slippy for our drivers today. Running a fixed setup, so all of our drivers on identically set up cars, and that's going to be very important as we go through the race here at Monza, where the draft is so important. And we have 5 incredible tracks. We have here at Monza, Laguna Seca, Bathurst, which will be a load of fun in the F3 cars as well. And we also have Interlagos also as well. So it's going to be very, very exciting as we head throughout the series. And Brian, which of the tracks on the calendar are you most looking forward to?
To be honest, I would say this one. Monza's always great racing. No matter what cars you throw at Monza, it's always action-packed. There's always drama within the races, no matter what layout you run. So it's always just brings a different dynamic. And so Monza's just a historic and fun track that you just get to see so much action at. And I'm excited to see these drivers make their way around here. And I'm excited to see the action that we're going to see.
Absolutely, yeah. So as our drivers are now just going through free practice, they've been in session for about an hour and 15 minutes or so. And I have to say, Brian, I came on just at the beginning of the session, and the track was pretty busy. So these drivers obviously very keen to get going and get lots of laps in. And I think here at Monza, particularly if you're a Formula One fan and you're watching, first of all, welcome to Apex Racing TV and this Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 series. Now you will notice that the first chicane at Monza at the end of the front straight is missing. We're going to bypass that completely and head all the way through to what is normally the second chicane. So you'll see here where you'll see the cones sitting where they would normally head, and we're just going to head straight on through. So that's going to open up the drafting opportunities much more. And Brian, I think today we're going to see some we're going to see a game of chess at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, because you have to manage when you make your moves here, because sometimes, like we've mentioned before with other series, you want to be kind of in that second place to kind of help manage your tires and stuff. But along with that, you get that draft. And with that, you can help choose. So if you get to that last lap and you're right there running in second, right on the bumper of the car in first, I would give that person the advantage over the person in first just because of the draft that you're going to get. So I'm excited to see the chess games that we're going to see. And it's just going to be so much fun to see these cars just managing the track in their cars, and also managing the games that you have to play to get that win.
Absolutely. Now, thanks to our producer Marco, you'll see on the top of your screen, you'll see a green icon saying Pro and a red icon saying AM. If you look at the timing screen on the left-hand side, you'll see each driver has either a green or a red icon to the left of their name. That is signifying whether they're in the Pro or the AM class. So fastest in the AM class, sorry, in the Pro class right now is the number 12 of David Holland, and in AM, it's the number 42 of Aaron Smith, who's right up there in 6th overall and just a second off the outright leader. So he's going really, really quick with the with a lot of the pro drivers behind him as well. So that's pretty cool. to see as well. Just coming up to the end of our free practice session now, we will head into qualifying. 10 minutes of qualifying where the drivers will have 4 laps to lay down a quick lap time. Now, will be quite a squeeze to get those 4 laps in with their out lap. But one thing also, Brian, that we're going to have to watch here today in qualifying, particularly, is the track limits, because particularly at the 2 Lesmos, the exit of the first Lesmo, the track limits are incredibly strict.
Yeah, and that's one thing we've seen with some other series where those track limits can really cost someone a race if you get down to the end of things. But in qualifying, especially, just one little slip up and you're all the way starting at the back just because you couldn't lay down a lap possibly. So it's going to be very hard to manage everything here to make sure that you're starting in a good position to have a chance to win the race. Now, you're going to have a chance to make that up in the first heat, but and get a good starting part for the feature. But in terms of starting for that heat to try to get that win, it's going to be very tough if you're starting towards the back.
Absolutely, you're right. Of course, tonight we're running the new quite popular iRacing heat format here on the road courses. So we will have one heat to set the grid for the feature race, with the top 10 being reversed. So the order really going to get jumbled up all night long here. And as you say, Brian, with a sprint racing format, there's going to be no time to be running down at the bottom of the pack. So that's going to be very exciting to see. Just while we're heading into the final stages of practice here as well, talk a little bit about the car here for this Dallara F3 series. Of course, Dallara are one of the biggest, if not the biggest name in race car manufacturing anywhere in the world. Opened up in 1972 by Giampaolo Dallara, who worked for Ferrari, Lamborghini, De Tomaso, and also Maserati as well. And the company Dallara, they have more IndyCar wins than any other chassis manufacturer. And this particular F3 car has launched the careers of people like Lando Norris, George Russell, and many, many more. Carbon fiber monocoque, only 550 kilos, which is about 1,200 pounds. So it's super, super light. 220 horsepower from a 2-litre normally aspirated engine. So you talk about a pure race car, this is exactly it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where these cars can be some of the most fun to drive. I love open wheel cars. They're probably my favorite of all the road cars, just because the speed that these things have, and just the amount of talent it takes to drive them is just amazing. And it always just, to me, brings some of the best action with the draft. And then you have these guys just running as fast as they are into some of these turns, and it's just so amazing to see. So I think we're going to be in for a big treat during this series.
Certainly are indeed. Absolutely. As we see our drivers now going out for qualifying, and luckily our drivers here, they will not have to worry about drafting and qualifying. They have the blissful solitude of having the track all to themselves, so they have complete peace and quiet to go out onto this beautiful Monza circuit and set, hopefully, 4 quick lap times to have the best chance of getting up near the front of the grid. Of course, Monza is just absolutely dripping in history and heritage for motorsport. In fact, it began all the way back in August 1922. They've been racing here at Monza, and the Automobile Club Milano built the circuit basically because they were so upset that a French car and manufacturer won the first ever Italian Grand Prix. So they wanted to build their own track so that they could test on it and then win, which of course they did. In the second ever Italian Grand Prix was held here at Monza, where Pietro Bordino won in a Fiat 804 at an average speed of 140 kilometers an hour. In 1922, that's extraordinary. And today, our average speeds will be far, far higher. But just shows you how much how much things have come along.
Yeah, and another thing about the qualifying that's different, as you mentioned, that they are on their own here. And so what that's going to do is it's going to cause you to take lines differently because you don't have that draft that you were dealing with maybe in practice or you'll deal with in the race. So you'll see these guys maybe possibly running even harder into the turns. Their braking zones will be different due to speed differences is the big thing. So it's something that we might see some guys jump up higher in qualifying that then would fall back during the race due to just those slight differences, and those can really throw some people off.
Absolutely. There's so many times, even in real world motorsport, both on 2 and 4 wheels, they always talk about how some drivers are brilliant qualifiers and then others who never quite pull it together in qualifying, but always get it done on race day. And of course, it is in the race where the points get handed out. No points for qualifying, but as you rightly said, Brian, it's particularly here at Monza, going to be very important to get that good grid spot as well. Getting a great view here of just how you're on the throttle for what feels like forever in one of these cars, and then finally coming down to what is the second chicane normally, but the first chicane for us today. Watching out for those horrible sausage curbs. And the curbs here, Brian, they're quite a challenge, because if you hit one of those horrible kind of sausage turtle curbs, it can make quite a difference, and quite a difference as in it can spin you off.
Yeah, that's something we've seen more and more, especially in the past couple years with some of these curbs, is that it really just unsettles the car. And it's always, I think it plays more into the people who are wanting to get as much speed out of their cars as possible, which does make the car a little bit unstable at points. So if you have any little thing that lifts a car up like those curbs do, when your setup is for a nice flat racetrack, it's gonna definitely take your car and make it hard to handle. So these guys got to know what the car can do and how to manage it on those curbs.
You're absolutely right, Brian. I think I tell you what's going to be huge today is, and throughout the series, is going to be keeping out of contact. Because, of course, if you have a little bit of rubs and contacts in, say, a sports car race, or especially a touring car race, the cars are tough. They can take it. They've got, bending sheet metal's not a problem there. For these guys and these very fragile carbon fiber monocoque cars, and crucially open wheeled cars, just the slightest bit of contact and it's race over. There is no recovery. So I think that's going to be a critical part to the to the year, to this season. I mean, because if you just get involved in one or two incidents, that's your chances of winning the championship over. So I think that wheel to wheel combat and how that all plays out is going to be fascinating, particularly in this opening race, Brian. I think because a lot of the drivers won't be familiar with one another at this stage.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where the first race of a series is typically tougher because you're not used to running with these drivers. Some of them you may have run in other series, but with the full field, you've never run with this field before. And with this track at Monza, especially, where you're close to that grass on multiple occasions in some of these turns on exit, it's very tough because one little misstep and you're putting someone else into that grass, which can cause a wreck, taking you out, or you're in that grass yourself. And that grass is a monster, as we know. So you really got to be able to manage where your car is around the other cars and where it is with the track limits.
Absolutely. So we're about halfway through qualifying now. All of our drivers setting a time, trying to get as far up the grid as they possibly can as well. And we have, of course, we have the prize for the amateur class champion and the pro class champion, but also we have the competition for the best livery award. So if you're watching live on Apex Racing TV, we would love to hear from you. What's your favorite livery, and who do you think should win that award? I have to say, my early favorite, Brian, is the Jordan Peugeot. I think that's very cool. I'm a bit of a sucker for a throwback livery. Which livery is catching your eye so far here in qualifying?
I'm not quite so sure yet. I'm waiting to see what I can see from the full field here. I'm not as big of a sucker for a throwback. I like creative idea and new ideas. That's what I play more towards. I'm looking for something new and fresh that really ends up catching my eye.
You're speaking like a true young hipster, Brian. Whereas I'm a hopeless old romantic. This is, I've said on my trading paints, I have a replica David Coulthard helmet, who was probably in Formula One before you were born, and and also some Jackie Stewart Tyrrell overalls. As well, who had some fantastic sideburns like I do, and which are about 30 years out of fashion. But nevertheless, I stick with them anyway.
Yeah, I'm one of those people where I'm constantly making my own new paints on trading paints, trying to find something new that no one else has done before. So that's what I'm really looking for in this livery contest. Just waiting for that car that's just brand new to me. So eventually, I think I'll find one that kind of sits with me very well. So we'll just have to wait and see for when that happens.
There you are, then. If your drivers are listening to our broadcast, then there's the criteria from the judges. Creative and new for Brian, and old fart for Peter, and that's gonna get, that's gonna get you the prize as well. Coming through to the business end of qualifying now. I'm watching all of our drivers, and of course, there is a little opportunity here to. If your laps are done to get some extra practice in as well before we dive into the heat.
Yeah, going through the times right now, though, we do have David Holland up in first at the moment. He's sitting on a 137.07, and then in second is Christoph Herbigno, and he is only a hundredth or 200ths behind at the moment. So with a 137.09, so these guys are really close to one another on speed, and it's just amazing that you have to go all the way back to the 13th position before you are in the 138s. So I think that we're going to be in for a big treat tonight.
I think you're right, and if all those guys can get through the early stages of the race clean, and once everybody kind of shuffles out after those first few laps where everyone's most at risk to get involved in incidents, I tell you what, Brian, like just looking at the timing screen, the amount of guys that could be in that lead group, it's going to be incredibly exciting as we see David Holland. He's on a 136.9. That is wow, that is fast. So he's the only guy underneath the 137 barrier. But I tell you what, who I've got my eye on, Brian, is Sam Kuijtert, the Dutchman, a double karting champion in that number 28 car. And we saw him run in the Formula Drivers Challenge here on Apex Racing TV during the lockdown period. And he was quick then, and I think he's going to be one to watch for sure.
Yeah, he didn't lay down a lap in practice, so we didn't really get to see what he could do. We did see David Holland, though, like we saw, who's sitting in pole. He was almost half a second faster than everyone behind him. So the field has caught him definitely a bit here, and definitely going to put some pressure on, because I'm sure after practice he was maybe thinking he had some comfortability, but I think after qualifying he's going to realize he doesn't have as much as he thought. So it's going to be very tough for him to mentally be able to hold on here. So Monza, it's very easy to make some mistakes. You don't have a ton of turns with this layout, though, so you're really going to have to be able to stick with people to be able to make up that time.
Okay, so we'll wait for our drivers to line up then. Let's have a look at our grid for heat number 1 here in the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 series. Just waiting for them to come up on your screen. There we go. Okay, so in pole position is David Holland with a 1 minute 36.944. In second is Christoph Herbigno with Sam Kuijtert in third. Fourth is Hugh Barter alongside Greg Seitz. Aaron Smith and Dave McDonald in sixth and seventh. Charles Baird, Georgie Zuffen, Tari Lampa, Isaac Snyder, Mitch Green, Marco Halterman, Nick Brown, Dan Cranefuss, Mark McDonald, Jose Malbrin, Jay Steffi, Brian Vors, Brett Pancari, Gianna Espinosa, Nico Nolivos, Steve Brown, Andre McCullen, and I believe, there we go, Andre McCullen, Shivari Below, and Joshua Jensen. So we'll just wait for our drivers to grid up, and we will be ready to go. So a standing start here. It's going to be really important for our drivers to get these cars off the line cleanly, but most of all, make it down to the very, very long drag down to turn 1 cleanly, Brian.
Yeah, and we always know that first turn in any type of series is always that really tough one. So You're gonna see guys trying to put themselves in spots that aren't really there to get those points, so we'll have to see what happens here.
Lights are up then, we're ready to go, and we are go here in the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 Super Series. And look at that, as Holland has made a brilliant start from pole position in the number 12 car, but he might sit vulnerable now as we see, Sam Coitert in the 28 making his way up to second position with Herbigno in the bright pink car on the inside. Let's see as they all head through the Curva Biasono, heading down towards the second chicane. Let's see what's going to happen here as we see, big crash. Is that Coitert?
I wasn't quite sure who it was. I don't think so. Coulthard is still up in the lead. It looked like it was a Russ racing car that ended up in another big incident here, and that's another Rust car involved. So some big issues for the Rust Racing team right now.
Yeah, that's... all the leaders look to Sam Coitert. He has got through, so he's got the jump on David Holland, the American. Look at that. And so Sam Coitert, he might not have spent much time in the official practice, but look at that. Makes his way to the front from third on the grid. Brilliant stuff from the Dutchman. He is super quick. And of course, the Hankook tires, the slick tires on these cars, they do need a little while to come up to full temperature, and they can be a little bit sketchy and snappy in the early stages, Brian. So brilliant stuff from Coitert to get on the pace so quickly.
Yes, but I also still, like I mentioned earlier, I like the option of being in second right now. I like where David Holland is sitting. I'm not so sure I want to be out in first, especially with 13 laps. You have time to kind of sit there in second, as long as you can stick with them. Oh, big
Oh my
there.
word. Oh my word, that is an enormous accident there. I can't actually even tell which driver that is. Now we're running on board. It's Jay Steffi, the number 47 Team Bearded Racer. Oh, I just hate to see what's about to happen here. And oh my giddy aunt, that's a big one.
Yeah, it looked like the car in front. I'm not sure if he got tapped or if he just got loose, but he went wide thinking he was going to be able to avoid it, but instead that car just came right out in front of him, and it was basically at that point became like a ramp, and we saw him go flying up into the fence, and we got to see that damage model for these cars getting put to display early.
Yep, carbon fiber everywhere. A very expensive accident in the real world. Thankfully not here in the sim, just costly for championship points. But Coitert, he got pipped there by David Holland. He's moved up into the lead. So let's get a look then at the number 66 of Dave McDonald. Just gets it. Oh my word, yes. And that's a great example as any contact with the barrier at all, and that's virtually race over. You have to run the races clean, and that's very hard when you're in the mid-pack. So Holland then takes the front from Coitert with the Belgian Herbigno in third and Barter in fourth as well. So there's a 4-car breakaway at the front, and we're going to see, I think, again, Brian, here, Coitert about to return the favour on Holland.
Yeah, and back to all those cars that got damaged, also, we do have one faster pair in these races, so it's going to be managing those as we see Coitert jump to the inside here, and it's most likely going to end up getting the lead as he's pulled out an edge just for now. He's most likely going to end up with it out of this turn, we'll have to see. But yeah, these guys do get a faster pair. But the problem is that most of these cars, when they get damaged, you're going to have to tow back. There's not really going to be driving these cars back because it's just something that's not really going to happen with them with the damage that they're normally going to get. So it's going to lose a lot of time. You're most likely going to go laps down, but you're not out of the race in terms of picking up spots.
No, absolutely not. It's I think over the course of the season, those that never give up and make sure they get back out on track all the time, or that could pay dividends, as we see. Looking at a beautiful livery here, the replica livery of the AlphaTauri Formula 1 car there. That's very nice. I like that one, the number 42. Back at the front then, it's Coitert who's got ahead of Holland, and look at this in front, Brian. Already they've got lap traffic to worry about, which is a surprise that, here we are, lap 3, and they've got lap cars to worry about. So the blue flag discipline is going to be vital here, and this could play a real part. I'm amazed we're talking about this already.
Yeah, well, I think it comes back to those cars getting that faster pair, and maybe these cars did get damaged and were able to drive it back. I think it's going to be rare that we see that, but It might happen a few times, depending on where the damage is and if the tires are still on for the most part. So we'll have to see, but it's going to be navigating this traffic as these two are just continuing to trade that first spot. So it's going to be managing where to go and managing where to put your car.
Well, as you can tell, Coiter's a kart racer. He's a hard racer because I tell you what, there, Brian, he left the absolute minimum of room there and swiping across the nose of David Holland there. And this is a great battle so far. Looking at that, look at the rear diffuser on that car. All that air getting used there to push the back of the car down and get all that wonderful grip. But it's going to be a battle all race long between Coiter and Holland. It looks like, and they've just broken away ever so slightly from the third and fourth places. We see number 33 of Isaac Schneider going off there at the second chicane, I think that is, and he'll tuck in behind the 46 of Brian Vorl, the American as well. But yeah, Barter and Herbino, they're in two mini packs now, and look at that. There's absolutely no room left at all from Coiter. And look at this, side by side of Herbino. Herbino and Barter get in, and Barter straight into the wall. And look at all the bits flying off there. That looked possibly... Well, let's get another look at that, Brian. What do you see here?
Yeah, it just looked like close. We see some contact there. And then we'll have to see here. Yeah, he just tries to push him out, it seems. And Herbino wasn't having any of it. So... it's just little mistakes there, and they just ran out of room between the two of them. So they tried to go side by side into the chicane after contact early. At that point, it looks like Herbino has the point, but at that point, Barter pushes over, and there's just nowhere for Herbino to go without getting into the grass, and he just held his ground.
Yep, I agree with you there. I see that one the same. Barter, he had room on the left-hand side, and he's paid the price. So that's interesting. So that brings, but Herbino's lost a place to Sights. Sights is now up to third in the number 74 machine, and whoop, that's the 66 there of David McDonald having a little bit of an off-track excursion. So, well, it's all happening here in this opening race, Brian, and we've still got another one to go. Fantastic.
Yeah, and remember, this is the heat, so in the feature race, we will invert the top 10. So currently sitting in 10th would be Joshua Jensen, who would be on pole then for the feature race. So we'll have to see if he stays there or possibly gets passed. But right now he holds the pole position for the feature race. So, but you want to go for wins, which David Holland and Sam Coulthard are now doing up there in the front, battling it out.
Look at this. This is the biggest we've seen the gap, Brian. David Holland, he's definitely, I wouldn't say he's broken the draft yet, but he's certainly the furthest he's been from the chasing pack or chasing car of Coiter, the Dutchman, and the number 28 machine. So this is going to be interesting now with all this lap traffic. It's something something I don't think we anticipated at the beginning of the race. But look at this. This is going to be interesting to see how much Coiter can make a jump. He was 0.8 of a second behind Holland coming out of the Parabolica, the final corner. Let's see if he can drag up heading towards the second chicane. At the moment, he's not pulling much at all. The timing screen is sitting absolutely spot on, exactly the same. So looked like David Holland was actually getting a slight draft from some of the lap traffic, so that's playing a part for sure.
Yeah, I think they're about the same distance. Holland is back from the lapped car, then Coulthard is behind Holland. So I think Holland's getting that draft, the same one that Coulthard is getting. And so at the same point that Holland's being pulled, it's just not allowing Sam to catch him. So it's going to be really, really tough for him to make anything of it now. It's just going to be managing that lap traffic once they get to it.
I have to say, I've got a new favourite for favourite livery. Well, it's not so much favourite car livery, it's favourite helmet livery. Number 46. Number 46 is Brian Vorl. He is wearing the Valentino Rossi Sun and Moon helmet, and that makes me very happy. That gets gone straight to the top of my favourite list so far, Brian.
Oh, you are a sucker for the classic stuff. I am perfectly fine with some of these new stuff that we're getting to see. So I'm still waiting for that one, though. I haven't quite found one that is drawing my eye perfectly yet, although I do like the pink there, the 73, so, of Marco Holterman, so maybe that might be the one I end up going with, but the battles we're getting to see are quite intense right now. These guys, they're looking like they're in a line, but the problem is that's your leader back there behind some of that traffic, so it's
Look at
gonna be very tough to manage everything with second coming up and starting to breathe down Holland's neck.
So look at this. Herbino, the former podium contender, Herbino, the Belgian driver, the number 3 car, he's had to come into pit lane, so obviously has damage. You could noticeably see that damage, and he's dropping all the way down our timing screen right now. What a pity for the Belgian. He was running very much in competition for that podium place. And look at this, we're having a great little battle here between Joshua Jensen and Ethan Lamp. This is sitting around the back end of the top 10. So these guys, if they finish where it is right now, well, they'll be right up the front of the pack heading into that feature race. And whoa, big oversteer moment there from Jensen. Oh, and he's run wide, he's on the sand. Oh, can Lamp go past? Oh, that was close. That was very, very close. And Lamp makes the way past, and Jensen gives him the room. Good stuff.
Yeah, and that's tough to hold on to. As we see, he's caught him. He's going for the lead right now. So, oh, and there's a car around in the back, it looks like. Not quite sure. But he ended up getting there. Cooter is now back to the lead and using that car in front as a draft himself. So these guys are not finished with the battling that's happening right now. And I'm sure that's not going to be the last pass that we see.
Now look at this. This is Sam Coitert's teammate going there. Can he use him as a pick? No, he wasn't able to use. I thought we're going to see a basketball screen here with some lap traffic, something I never thought I would say on a Formula 3 sprint race broadcast, but there we go. I tell you what, Brian, this is, if I can just see a rivalry brewing here that's just going to last all season long, which is going to be cracking stuff. As Sam Coitert, oh, he just got the edge. He's slightly better on the brakes there. Holland lets him go. Holland thinking, it's no problem, as long as I'm beside you, there's 5 laps to go. It's all about where you are at the checkered flag.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest thing is just not letting him pull away, but just sticking right behind him because, as we've mentioned, that draft is so important. As we see a battle back here for 8th between Lamp and Jensen. So there's battles going on throughout the track, and every position matters, as we talked about, because of the feature race, where the top 10 are inverted. So sitting in 10th at the moment is Isaac Snyder. So looking to be on the pole for the feature race, but you still do get points for the heat. So you do want to finish as high as possible, even though it means you're going to start further back in the feature.
This is getting really, really tasty now between Holland and Coiter. I cannot believe how close they're running together, Brian, without contact. That's the sign of really top-class motorsport. And look at that, Coiter using all of the exit there, going out of the parabolica, knowing he's got to get that run on Holland. But here comes Holland with the draft. It's like he's got another 20 horsepower. Coiter punching a nice big hole in the air for him. And I tell you what, you wouldn't get this in Formula One.
Yeah, no. There's just battles going on everywhere right now. Guys are moving up and down the pylon, as you can see. So some of these guys are breaking away. As we see, these guys are all the way about 51 seconds ahead of 18th place. So their field has become spread out, as we've seen incidents happening, but other guys are quite close to one another. As we see, Snyder and Lamp just changed positions back in the 9th and 10th position here. So, and they're coming up on Jensen in 8th. So a nice little battle brewing for 8th place right now also.
Yeah, I've got to give a shout out to our AM class leader, Charles Bear, in the 27 machine, who is at 5th overall and obviously first in class in that red and black Fanatec machine. Very impressive run from the American there. He'll be very pleased with that, getting maximum points in class as it stands right now. We're just about to complete lap number 9, so we will have 4 laps to go when Holland and Coiter go over the stripe. Now, speaking of the stripe, the finishing line here at Monza, whoa, but we see the finishing line here at Monza is very far down the back straight, so even if you're leading out the parabolica here, this corner here, unlikely you'll be able to hold it to the line.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that being in second at the moment, you can kind of see and start to time up exactly when to make that move. As we see a little bit there from Coulthard, I think he was a little late getting across the line. I think Holland ended up getting to the line first. So it just, you can prepare for that last lap and you want to be in second, I feel, coming to the stripe just because you have the opportunity to get that big draft, but you got to stay close enough through the turns. So I can't say I know who's gonna win this one with the amount of times they've swapped positions, and I'm not even gonna hedge a bet, but we're gonna get to see a great show at the end.
Yeah, we certainly are. And I feel the way that they're not just, and the thing is, they're not running in flying formation, really, are they, Brian? They are swapping places throughout the lap, not just on the straightaways. They are making moves when they're there. So, and even with that, they're pulling away. You know, they're full over 5 seconds ahead of the 74 car of Greg Seitz. So it's amazing how they're pulling away. Looking at this, oh, brilliant. 46, running the 46, one of the greatest numbers in motorsport. Valentino Rossi's number 46, of course, Italian. We're in Italy. I think it's just fitting that that car, the 46 of Brian Vorst, is up in 10th place.
Yeah, and that's an important battle. We mentioned the invert, but the guy in 11th starts 11th in the features, so it's going to be important to be in that 10th spot over 11th because that's the difference between starting first and starting in that 11th position in traffic. So that's going to be the battle that's hugely important at the end, other than the winning battle.
So here we go then, very much coming into the business end of this race here at Monza. It's been an absolute cracker so far. A real battle between Sam Coulthard and David Holland, both in the pro class, both running for outright honours here. And as you said, Brian, it's absolutely impossible to call. Both driver giving absolutely no quarter, and none is given, none is taken. Here in this contest, we've got 2 laps to go after this, as we see the number 3 of Herbino after that pit stop making his way up. So there we go, Brian. He had to come in, take his fast repair, and he's got back up to 13th place. So that absolutely backs up what you were saying. It's no point giving up. Get in, get your fast repair, and get out and see where you can go.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, it's hugely important because this isn't the only race of the day, so you can make up positions, get some decent points in the heat race, and then go to the feature and be able to make up more positions. So when you're starting in that top 5 and you get wrecked out, you feel defeated. It's an awful feeling, but you have to just get back on the horse, get back in the seat, and just start driving and try to make up as many positions as you can so you have that better position in the feature to put yourself in the chance to go win the race.
Absolutely. And, well, who is going to win this race? Who's your money on, folks? If you're watching live on Apex Racing TV, great to have your company. Let us know in the chat what you think, who you think is going to win this. Is it going to be the Dutchman Coulthard or the American of David Holland? So heading there, got a replay here with Isaac Schneider in the 33 machine. Oh, getting over the hot sausage curb. Wow, did very well to keep it out the wall there, I think, Brian. That was, because if he'd made contact with the wall there, that was race over.
Yeah, the sad part there, though, he was running 11th with that chance still at that 10th spot, and now he's just put himself in a huge hole now to be able to get back up there. So it's going to be very tough to be able to make up some spots now.
Certainly is, and he's got Herbino right behind him as well now, just closing in and he's got a really fast race car as well. So, what a pity there for the number 33 of Schneider, but he'll be back. Oh, Holland running very, very wide there. That's bound to be track limits. And has he been given a slowdown penalty? No, I don't think so. But using all of the exit there, coming out of the second Lesmo corner as they head into this Ascari chicane. And Holland, is he off? I can't quite see on the camera. Yes, oh my word. Holland getting right onto the sand trap there, and you know what, we're just going to take the white flag the next time over the stripe. That might have just given Coulthard the breathing space to break away.
Yeah, I was going to say he was a bit far behind Coulthard there anyways, with being over half a second back, and that's going to be tough to make up even with the draft that you have. But with him having this mistake here that puts him over a second back, as we see, he had to just get the car off the sand and settle down. And so it's going to make things even more difficult for him. I don't think he's going to be able to get it. I think he just needs to settle down, take the second place position, and make sure that he's just nice and smooth in the feature and be able to try to go for the win there.
Ah, yeah, just caught the sausage curb on the inside, on the left-hand side, and that really unsettled the car quite badly. And yeah, I think you're right, Brian. It's a long season. Second place is still an excellent job. And but Sam Coiter, he really put him under pressure, really made him push beyond his limit there. Brilliant driving from the Dutchman, as well as we see a side-by-side here with the 25 of Nicholas Nolivo, the man from Ecuador, running alongside Steve Brown in the number 38 machine. So Ecuador versus Great Britain here, heading down through where the first chicane normally would be, in towards the second chicane. But our leader, Sam Coiter, can't be too far away from taking the checkered.
Yeah, and as we're going through the field right now, there isn't a ton of battles going on. This is really one of the main ones back here for the 13th position, as Coitert's coming to take that checkered flag this time by once he gets there. But as you look through the field, the 6th and 7th place guys are second apart, along with 5th. So it's not a ton of battles, as we've seen the incidents throughout the race going on towards the end. And it just shows who had that consistency to be able to keep the car safe and be able to pull away from the other drivers behind them.
So Sam Coiter then, he weaves over the line and takes the... Oh, did he make it over the line in time? Oh, just. Just, he was weaving all over down the back straight there and just made it past David Holland there. But Sam Coiter is your winner then. Number 28 wins the opening heat here in the Apex Racing Academy VRS F3 Super Series, and we will head on to the feature with that top 10 inverted. So it will be the 81 of Joshua Jensen who will sit on pole position alongside the 95 of Ethan Lamp heading into the feature race.
Yeah, and that's going to be very important in the feature, just making sure that you now have the best starting position. So you're not starting back in the field. You don't really have to deal with traffic. The biggest thing is being smooth in the first turn so that you can be careful with the car and so that you're sure that you just stay up there, because any little tap, anything that puts you off track and gives you any damage at that point, the feature, there's no race after that. You're done. There's no salvaging anything. It's just, that's the big race. So these guys are going to have to be very careful with what they do. They're going to have to be very careful with the curbs. If we've seen what the curbs have done to these cars. So it's just going to take a lot of consistency from these drivers, especially throughout the whole series, as we have 2 races each day. So these guys really just have to have consistency throughout the entire series.
They absolutely do. So let's have a look then. Let's run through our race order from Heat 1. So your winner then, the Dutchman Sam Coiter, winning by 1.4 seconds from David Holland. Taking the last spot in the podium was the American Greg Seitz for the Russ Racing Steel team, with his teammate Mitch Green in 4th. Your AM class winner for Heat 1 was Charles Bear, alongside Nick Brown and Aaron Smith and Brian Force. 4 AM drivers in the top 8. Great job from them. Ethan Lamp in 9th place, with Joshua Jensen in 10th, taking that critical pole position for the feature race. 11th was Isaac Schneider, with Christoph Herbigno coming back after damage in a pit stop, getting 12th place. That will be vital to get some good finish points in the feature. 13th was Steve Brown, with Nico Nolavos finishing behind him. Mark McDonald in 15th, with Brett Pancari, Dan Cranefins and Hugh Barter. Hugh Barter, unfortunately, getting held up in that bad incident early on in the race. Andre McCullen, the Jamaican, in 19th. 20th was Georgie Zoyne, followed by Jay Steffi, Dave McDonald, Gianni Espinoza, Marco Holterman, Jose Malbran, and Siobhan Ballou. Now, where our drivers have the opportunity for a very short warm-up session before we grid up for the feature. So one last opportunity to get a little last bit of practice in.
Yeah, and for some of these guys, it's going to be trying to make up that time that they didn't have in the first heat race. So it's going to be getting their car to drive all the way on the edge is what they really need to do if they're going to have a chance to get up there and race with Coulthard and Holland. So if they really want that chance, it's really going to come now at warm up to put in just a couple really quick laps. If you make a mistake, that's fine in the warm up. So go ahead, put yourself on the edge, try to pick up that time because otherwise you're just going to be running it almost exactly where you were, other than unless you have an incident.
Absolutely. So our driver's out now, just having a couple of extra laps practice in their. I have to say these are beautiful machines. These Dallara F3 cars, and the thing I love about cars like these single seaters is that there is absolutely nothing on these cars to do with looks. They're every single millimeter of this car is all about performance, and yet it still has this beautiful shape. And amazingly, Dallara have one of the youngest workforces in the motorsport industry. Their average age of the employees at Dallara is 34. So Mr. Dallara, Mr. Gianpaolo Dallara, is very passionate about getting young people into the technical area of motorsport. But although, Brian, their proudest achievement at Dallara is not a race car. In fact, they designed and built the hand cycle that Alex Zanardi won his gold medal in the Paralympics in 2012.
Yeah, and that's always cool to see, especially with the racing world, to see them get involved in the bigger picture of things and helping people out that in Special Olympics, things like that. It's just always amazing to see what the racing community can do because the racing community doesn't get credit for all the stuff that they do outside of racing as much. And it's kind of a sad thing to see. So when you see something like that, it just puts a smile on your face and just shows truly how powerful the racing community is.
Certainly is. And speaking of, I'm sure everyone watching will echo the sentiment that we send our very best wishes to Alex Zanardi, who's currently fighting for his life right now in hospital after a horrendous accident on his bicycle a month or two ago. And we wish him and his family very well. As our drivers coming to the end of their very brief warm-up session, and we'll be ready to go for our full-length feature race. And I have to say, it's going to be a completely different complexion this race, Brian, because we had our fastest drivers in race one. They were the guys that qualified up the front. It was all the top qualifiers that battled for the win in the race. In this race, they're going to be further back in the pack, so it's going to be a different complexion, and we could see some new names running up front for the entirety of the race.
Yeah, it's really going to be managing that traffic, which I think the leaders did a very good job of, and they got some practice with that in the sprint race that we saw, which we didn't quite expect, but it gave them a little bit of what to prepare for, where the good zones are to get around people, things like that. So it's just going to have to be smart on their end to be able to make the right moves at the right time and pick and choose those spots. So it's going to be fun to see them come up through, but it's also going to be fun to see the guys that are now starting up front to try to hold their positions up there. I do think we're probably going to see some mistakes from guys that maybe aren't used to being in that position, possibly. So it's just going to be very interesting to see how everything plays out.
Okay, let's quickly go through our grid then for the feature. Lining on pole position will be Joshua Jensen alongside Ethan Lamp, with Brian Vorse, Aaron Smith on row 2. Row 3 is Nick Brown and Charles Baer. Row 4, Mitch Green and Greg Seitz, with David Holland and Sam Coitert on row 5. Watch them to come through the field. Isaac Schneider and Christophe Herbignot will line up on row 6. Row 7 will be Steve Brown and Nico Nolavos, Mark McDonald alongside Brett Pancari, Dan Cranefuss, Hugh Barter, Andrew McCullen, Georgie Zoyne, Jay Steffi, Dave McDonald, Gianni Espinoza, and Marco Holtman, with Josie Malbran and Shivan Ballou in rounding out the field. So we wait for our drivers to line up, and our lights will be about to go up, and we will go for this first feature race in the Apex Racing Academy F3 Super Series. Our lights are up, our drivers' revs rise, waiting for those 5 lights to go out. And we're off here live at Monza in the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 Super Series, and a brilliant start from the 95 of Ethan Lamp. He's got an absolute rocket off the front. Look at that. He could actually get all the way down into turn 1 cleanly, and that could be critical, Brian.
Yeah, and it was not a great start for Brian Vorst, who ended up losing 2 positions off the start. So, these guys gotta really be careful now, as we saw some big incidents happen on the first lap of the heat race. So now these guys, oh, and a big incident there, as we see it looks like it's Vorst that's around.
Oh, there's my word. There's a lot going on here. Now, who's now the number 81 of Joshua Jensen having a problem there as well? Oh no, 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 no! That's I think that was Scott Brown. Sorry, Steve Brown. My apologies. Who had a little bit of an issue there in the 25. He's taking the 25 of Nico Nolavos with him, the Ecuadorian driver. So, oh, and look at this. The 95 has been overtaken by the 31 of Nick Brown, the man from Turkey. He's in the AM class and he's making his way forward with Lamp. He is, well, he's moved back to second and he's your pro leader, but second overall. Brilliant stuff. We're now riding on board with the 42, the AlphaTauri car of Aaron Smith, and he very cleverly is just giving a little bit of social distance here, just to try and keep his powder dry and try and keep clean in these opening laps.
Yeah, and we saw there exactly why, as Nick Brown ended up sliding the car through that turn there and pushing a little bit wide, but Lamp prepared for that, ended up backing out of it, let him slide in front, and was able to pull it down to the bottom. So very smart there. And it looks like Holland is in pit lane right now. Maybe an issue for the runner-up from the heat race.
He is, yep. From my timing screen, he is in there as we see, whoa, this is an amazing battle. The 42 there, look at that, 42 of Aaron Smith. Oh, massive accident, massive crash, they're all off. 31 is off, oh my goodness me, Brown's off. Oh, wow, that's it, Nick Brown is off. And, gee whiz, no, Nick Brown, my apologies, Nick Brown. Oh, it's carnage. It's absolute carnage. There is carbon fiber everywhere. Nick Brown somehow has got away cleanly there in the 31 car, but I was sure that I saw him off. We'll get a replay. And we're now riding on board with the 33 car of Isaac Schneider. Let's have a look. Right, here we go. We've got the 42 of... Oh, no, the Nick Brown in the 31. He does get taken, but actually... he has taken a bit of damage, but he was able to hold it, very well held, get back onto the track, but surely he'll have to pit for his fast repair. The 42 of Aaron Smith with the Damon Hill helmet, oh, he got a lot of damage there too as well. So, those three leaders just getting a little bit overambitious there, Brian.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we ended up seeing, is just big incidents on lap 1, because these guys are pushing hard. Lap 1 and 2, they're so close together. Some of these guys with the invert maybe weren't really racing around each other as much, and that really put a damper on things there for those guys, because they were going to have such a great race. But now your leader, look at that, is Christophe Herbigno, who we knew had those issues in the heat race, and now here he is leading the features. So big props to him. We saw him continue to battle, and now here he is ended up leading this feature race.
There you go. You were absolutely right, Brian. Never give up. Get in there, get the repair, and go for it. And of course, winning the feature, that's the one that everyone remembers, really. But look at Koiter, our Heat 1 winner, and he's having to get through big traffic here, but he's got up to 4th place, so he's made some good moves so far. Derek Holland, he's in 13th, even though he's had a pit stop, so he's back in the fight as well. So this is fascinating stuff here in this first round of the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 Super Series. Well, goodness me, it might take a long time to say the name of the series, but the action is far faster paced as the number 3 of Herbino, he's breaking away at the front. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, and as long as Koiter gets stuck behind some of those other drivers, Herbino has the opportunity to just continue to pull away here, although I'm sure Mitch Green doesn't want to allow that, but we've got to see some great action going on right now up towards this lead. Is 3rd and 4th are really close to one another, getting ready for a battle. So we'll have to see how that ends up. But here we are for the battle at 12th, with Holland going around Brown. So Holland making back that time. I'm not sure if Brown actually did pit or not. We'll have to see. Big issues there, it looks like, for Brown, as he went wide off that turn.
think he maybe got a little bit of a help. I'm not for sure, right? I'm not entirely certain, but it looked like he might have got a little nudge there. Brown did go in, the number 31 of Nick Brown. He did go in to get that repair, but that fast repair, well, about half the field using their fast repair here in this opening feature race of the season, and well. I had a feeling that the feature race with the inverted grid was going to throw up fireworks, and we haven't been disappointed. But my goodness me, the 12 of David Holland, he's making big moves up the field and trying to get as many points in the bag as he can. But he'll be driving angry for sure, because he'll be disappointed missing out in the win in Heat 1, but also getting involved in that mid-pack incident is going to be really frustrating for him, especially with Coiter up in 4th. But the 68 of Barter, of Hugh Barter, the Australian, he's now fighting for that podium position that he just missed out on in the opening race.
Yeah, and so we'll continue to see these guys try to battle their way up the field and make up any points. It is a long series where, as we saw, the heat race and the feature race pays out points. So we'll just have to see how they continue to do and just continue to battle for points.
As you can see there, thanks to very well spotted by our producer Marco Barbonero. So he's obviously had lots of coffees tonight. The number 74, Greg Seitz, jumping the start there. So need to wait and see if he gets a penalty for that, if he hasn't served it already. He has, thank you. He's served it already. Thank you, Marco. That's very helpful indeed. Fastest lap of the race, Sam Coiter, 1 minute 36.7. That's rather quick, what some might say, Brian.
Yeah, Coiter is coming. He's got that time down a little bit. It's probably not as much as he wants. He was at one point at almost a 4-second gap. So he ends up actually falling down to 4th again there. So he's trying to make his way up to get that win here, but no one is making it easy for him. So if he just continues to battle, as we see him losing time again, so back over 4 seconds. So he is struggling with the traffic right now, and I don't think he's going to be able to get there. Fabinho is almost 2 seconds ahead now, so it's looking like it's going to be Christoph's race to lose.
Absolutely. Hugh Barter, the Australian, he is not letting him go. Interestingly, with a bit of cloud cover coming over now, the track temperature has dropped quite a bit to 34 degrees centigrade. So that'll be, the grip will be coming up nicely for these drivers. They'll be really happy about that. But yeah, Coiter not having it his own way with 68 of Barter, even though Sam Coiter is actually wearing a Daniel Ricciardo replica helmet, which of course, Daniel being Australian, Hugh Barter has absolutely no appreciation for that and saying, I don't care whose helmet you wear, I am not letting you pass.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where we talked about with this inversion that's going to make things difficult is just you now have to race your way up through the field, and these guys are not going to make it easy on you just because you won the first heat. So as we see here, a lot of these guys are kind of in line but really close to one another, drafting with one another here. So these guys are really fighting for this spot right now.
Yeah, I think if you're the 28 and 28 of Coiter and the 68 of Barter, I don't know about you, Brian, but I mean you're our resident oval racing expert. I think they've got to take a little bit of a leaf out of their book, and they've got to get. I think these guys have got to try and work together. They've got to be dancing partners, because if particularly the layout of this Monza track, although it has some turns, it does have a little bit of the kind of soul of an oval circuit. Of course, did have an oval circuit a long time back, but I think actually if they can work together and not try and slow each other up, I think they might be able to have the pace to get up to Mitchell Ian Green in the number 19 car in second, and possibly Herbino in the 3 as well. But they can only do that if they work together.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you always see where battling, you lose time. So those guys back there side by side battling one another, it's not helping them at all. It's actually making them fall even further behind. Sam Coiter is almost back to over 4.5 seconds. Gonna probably end up being 5 if they keep battling like this. So it's just gonna be more and more difficult for them to push for that lead as they're battling so hard, and it's actually gonna allow 5th place to probably catch them. So these guys really got to start deciding on what they want to do here. There's still over half the race left. Oh, and a car is hard into the wall there. So it's really just going to come down to being smart about it.
This is the 27 of Charles Bear, our AM winner in Heat 1. Just getting a little nudge there from the 41 of Siobhan Ballou. Oh, my word. That's, yeah, like you say, that damage model. There's the exhausts everywhere, the wings off. There's, yeah, that's a big old wreck, as you say. Look at this. But yeah, I don't think they've got, I don't think they don't appear to have much interest in being dancing partners here, Brian. They're, racing pretty hard, but look at this, the number 19 of Michelin Green, he's come back to them a lot, so he's obviously made a mistake at some point, and that's allowed Coiter and Barter to catch up. Now, this is where it's going to get really spicy with three guys in the pack. Well, you can, here in Scotland we have Scottish country dancing. There's plenty of dances with two and sometimes with three partners as well.
Yeah, and one of the other things is they were fourth and was all the way back to over 5 seconds back at one point. So the fact that they're now less than 4.5, and so it shows me that either Christoph is taking things really slow at the moment, just kind of being patient with things, or maybe they did finally single file for a little bit and put in a quick lap that allowed them to get there. So it really just, these guys got to start being smooth as looking at their last pace time. Actually, Christoph was over a second faster. So these guys really got to start deciding what they're going to do. I'm sure Coiter wants to get around green and then start making that run at Herbigno, as we see he's going for that pass now. So if he can clear him and maybe get going, get away from the draft a little bit, I think that it's going to give Coiter his best chance of getting up there into the win.
Look at this, they're going nearly 3 wide as they head down towards the old second chicane. Oh, Coiter goes defensive. That's going to slow him up a little bit. Barter in the 68, he flows in second in the pack, third overall, with the number 19 of Michelin Green tucking in behind. Now, I suspect, Brian, based on pace, I would suspect that Coiter and Barter will now scamper off in hot pursuit of Herbigno.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's what I think is going to happen. But the biggest thing here is that Coiter was faster than Christoph that last lap. So by over almost half a second there. So it's going to be very, very close to whether Coiter can get there by the end of the race or not. It really comes down to whether or not Barter is going to allow him to pull away, or whether Barter is going to continue to try to make passes on Coiter.
Absolutely, it's going to be fascinating to watch. And your AM class leader right now is Joshua Jensen in the 81, is sitting 8th overall. He's got the 21 of the pro class runner of Mark McDonald chasing him down, so he's got a decent lead in AM right now. So he'll be quite happy with that as things stand. But it's going to be fascinating to see just if Coiter and Barter are able to make that run up to try and catch Herbigno. It's going to be fascinating to watch for sure.
Yeah, and an update on your runner-up finishes from the heat race. David Holland is up to 11th at the moment, but he's kind of just stalled there, it seems like. He is running much faster than the cars in front of him by over 2 seconds, and there he goes up in the 10th now, actually. So now he's over a second in front of all of the cars, all the way up to 4th place. He's over a second faster than. So we'll see if he continues to make up those spots or not, depending on how much time he has. He does have still about half the race to go, so a good chance for him to be able to rebound from that early problems that he had.
Yep, I tell you what, Brian, you nearly had a perfect Murray Walkerism there. The half the race is gone. That means there's half the race to go. I've been listening to his audiobook this week, so I've been working on my Murrayisms as well. My favourite one was the car the car at the front is unique, except for the one behind, which is identical.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. I also got to say that you called something with some of the incidents we saw with the tire contact here. Any little bit of tire contact has really sent these cars around it and into some big problems. Most of the problems we've seen came just purely from tire contact. A couple of them were bigger, where someone slid up and hit them. Others were just that, the tires touched, and all of a sudden we saw cars wrecking. So that was a great call by you on that.
You're far too generous to me, Brian. You really are. But you keep me right, and that's good. That's why we make such a good combination. So, interestingly, there, Coiter much faster on that last lap than Barter. So he's really putting the hammer down now. And Barter not, well, certainly not close enough to make a move, but Coiter really putting in those qualifying laps. But crucially, Brian, as you spotted, he's hard. In that case, he was only about a tenth quicker than Herbigno, and that's not going to be enough with 10 laps to go.
Yeah, no, I gotta give credit to Christophe Herbigno right now. He is really just putting in the laps, running as fast as Sam Quitter, being able to keep that lead. And I mean, you can see it there. It's a generous lead at the moment. He doesn't really have any pressure from behind. The biggest thing here is just consistently running those laps because we know Quitter can do it. It just comes down to whether Herbigno can do it or not. So we'll see as the race progresses on how big that gap is towards the end of the race.
Absolutely, will indeed. So 10 laps down, just about to go on to lap 11 of this race. And well, it has been the Belgian of Christophe Herbigno. Very, very quick driver in the number 3 machine, the bright pink machine. I know our producer Marco will be very, very happy at that. I'm sure that will get his vote for the top livery of the day. And look at that, Sam Coiter is his fastest lap of the race, a 1:37.277. So we said he was putting in those qualifying laps. Well, that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, and at that pace, I'm still not sure he's able going to be to get to the leader here. As we see Aaron Smith here into the grass and ended up, we know what that grass is. It is ice. You do not want to be on the grass, especially with all 4 tires, because at that point you're just putting yourselves in harm's way because it's going to be very hard to control the car there.
Oh yeah, that was one of those moments. And the thing is, these cars, the Polara F3 car, I mean, they're a pedigree race car. They are a really sophisticated machine and designed for speed. But they actually, although they might seem a little bit, they're nowhere near as quick as say an Indy car or a Formula 1 car, but they when you get it wrong, they snap. And I find, Brian, when you get a little bit of a moment, you don't catch it very easily. If you're getting an oversteer moment, often you're going backwards into the barrier.
Yeah, and as we look here at your AM running at the moment, Jensen has a 10-second lead over the second place AM driver of there. So he's built himself a very good lead. He can just run comfortable now and consistent, but I'm sure he wants to beat some of those pro drivers now to kind of put a feather in his cap. So definitely want to have that going for him, but I'm sure he's also content with trying to just keep this lead going as he's just continuing to grow it.
Yeah, so if you're wondering how we determine between a pro class driver and an AM class driver, it's all done on the driver's I rating. So iRacing has a system that, based on your results, it has effectively like a little bit like the world ranking in golf. So every result you have has an effect on your ranking, and it's referred to as an I rating. So what the series organizers here at Apex Racing do is take everybody's I rating and take an average. And if you are below the kind of middle average, you go in the AM class, and if you're above the middle average, you go in the pro class. So you'll see about half and half pros and half AM in this. So if you're looking at pro, you're thinking, does that mean they earn a nice big juicy salary? Probably not. It's just that they are very, very good at iRacing and are providing us with some excellent entertainment. And so far, well, yes, you say the number 81 of Jensen, he's up in the top 10. He's the only AM in the top 10. And like you said, Brian, that's that little kind of almost self-pat in the back. You go, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm getting up there and mixing with guys with much higher I ratings than me.
Yeah, it's always that feather in the cap that you got there, as I mentioned. When you're beating someone higher than you, it's such a good feeling, especially when you see them behind you and you're pulling away. So, or when you're chasing them down and going for that pass. So it's something that always makes everyone feel very happy, as we see Jensen going for 8th here on McDonald. So it's definitely a great feeling. Or that's McDonald going on Jensen there for 8th.
Yeah, that's the number 21, Mark McDonald, for the man from Illinois. making his way to the front in that beautiful blue and orange, almost the Gulf Racing colours on the Rust Racing machine. Hopefully he won't turn his car to rust today, as well as we see, the number 81 of Joshua Jensen. Look at that. You can see the weave in the carbon fibre there of his Dallara F3 car, the front wing, and he's right on the gearbox here. Can he make a move into the second chicane? Is he going to think about it? It would be a big one. Nope. McDonald's able to beat him on the brakes, but gets a little bit of a wobble over the sausage curb, but Jensen makes a mistake, and that gives a little bit of breathing room. And look who's there to capitalise. The number 12 of David Holland. He's now up to 10th position, so he's recovering very well after that opening incident.
Yeah, and I think Jensen has to kind of realize that he is the leader of the AM series right now, so he has to make sure that he stays in the right position.
Absolutely. You make a whoa, that's the 40. Oh no. I think this is a replay of yes, this is my apologies. I thought this was a new replay of lap 1 of what happened to David Holland. You make a great point there, Brian, about the being the AM class leader for Jensen. For him, he doesn't actually necessarily need to worry about battling with these guys in the pro class. In fact, for him, there may be even a little bit of benefit if he can just slot in behind them. He can maybe get a lap or two of draft from the faster drivers, which it looks like he's doing that. He can now tuck in behind, well, not many faster guys to tuck in behind than David Holland here, but clearly he's not wanting any of that. He says, no, don't worry about that. I want to beat the big guys.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're racers. You always want to make up as many positions as you can, but it's one of those things where you have to just try to be careful with everything, because you are the points leader of your class. Right now, you're leading the race, and is it really worth fighting these higher class drivers for positions when you could possibly get taken out? But there's always that part of you that in your conscience that's telling you, go for it, go for it, go for it, because it's the wheel that every driver has.
Yeah, it's kind of like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, and yeah, you often listen to the devil, don't you? It's just like, go for it, go for it. So we're just about to approach 3/4 distance in this feature race, and Sam Coiter now up to second place and chasing down the number 3 of Herbigno, and yes, he's got it to under 3 seconds for the first time, so Coiter definitely making gentle progress up towards Herbigno, but he's only got 5 more laps if he wants to make an impression, so he's going to have to keep putting in those qualifying laps. But wow, look at on that last lap there, 0.6 of a second quicker than Herbigno. Coiter is pushing hard.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what he's got to do if he wants to win this race. It's down to the 3 seconds, as you mentioned, but as we talked about, that's 5 laps, and he's made up a second. So we're looking at about 5 more laps, and I don't think he's going to get there. I just don't think there's enough time at this pace to be able to get there at this moment. So Herbigno, I think, just has the better car right now in terms of being able, or the better position, I should say, of being able to have that break between them and being able to really manage this race however he needs to.
Absolutely. You just got to hope for Herbigno. He doesn't have any. He'll be hoping to have a clean road in front of him, not too many lap cars, or if he is going to have lap cars that respect the blue flag. Of course, in motor racing, if you're a driver and you're shown the blue flag, that means there is a faster driver coming up behind you to lap you effectively. And in this form of motorsport, that means move over and let the other driver through, and hopefully that is obeyed, as we see here on the right-hand side, top right-hand side of your screen. You'll see the graphic there. So Herbigno does have the 23rd place car of Charles Bear, funnily enough, our AM class winner in Heat 1. And he's sitting back down in 23rd place. So hopefully he'll get some good some manners from him. He's just coming up behind him just now. So hopefully that won't hold up Herbigno and spoil his race.
Yeah, and looking back through the field, we have 14 cars on the lead lap currently after some of those huge incidents that we saw earlier. Some of these guys still pushing for position here. We see Ninth and eighth place really close to one another, but along with 10th and 11th. So these guys are really pushing right now.
So let's get a lot. This is Joshua Jensen. This is our AM class leader. What coming into the parabolica, the number 81. He gets onto the paint. Oh, I can see what's going to happen here. A little snap. Oh no, no! The 81 of Joshua Jensen crashing out of the AM class lead, taking all wheels off. Let's get an onboard view. Then he coming into the parabolica. You're off camber here. You're braking. He's just getting a little loose onto that horrible artificial grass, sideways into the barrier. Oh no, he'll be devastated. Oh, Brian, what can you say about that?
I think it's one of those cases where it's really tough because you don't want to let off pushing so hard, but he's now probably cost himself the win for his class right now because of it. So it's going to be a very tough thing, but as the races progress, I think once you get into that lead, you really just got to settle in and be comfortable there, leading your class instead of trying to push harder and harder, because had he let off and kind of taken that a little easier with the lead he had over second place in the class, he could have really made it through there with no problem. Oh, and another issue here for
Oh
the
no,
class leader.
that's the 35 of Brett Pancari, the Canadian, in the Jordan car, my favourite throwback livery. No, so that means who wants to win this AM class? Well, now, can you believe it? Nick Brown. Now remember, he's been in pit lane. He was involved in that early incident in the opening laps. He's had damage. He's come back into pit lane, and he's now leading the AM class. So, goodness me, let's get an on board then with Brett Pancari in the Jordan Peugeot, coming down into Ascari, a very tricky corner. Oh, just hits the sausage curb, and he maybe was getting notification there that he was leading his class, and just distracted slightly, and spins round. What a pity for Pancari.
Yeah, and that's again one of those really tough things. But Nick Brown, after leading the class early in the race, is now back to it. So all things come around. So there he is leading. And here back to the front, we have Herbigno out front with Porter trying to chase him down at the moment. The gap is down to 2.5 seconds. But that means in over just a couple laps, he's made up half a second. That's still too large of a gap, I feel, for him to even have a chance to get there at the moment. So I think this is really, really looking more and more like Herbigno's race.
Well, I have to say, Brian, you've got confidence in the number 3, and as do I. But I have to say, if you're the driver out front, and each driver will have timing information available to them depending how they like to have it in their sim rig at home. And of course, if you see that delta, we've all been there, both in sim racing and in real world racing sometimes as well. You see that time just coming on and you're being chased down. That's where that concentration and just focusing on hitting your marks and trusting your pace is so important. But like you said, it's so easy to kind of mirror drive, and now he will see, look at that, he can really easily see Koiter in his mirrors now. There's not a draft to worry about yet, but just the view of Koiter in his mirrors will bound to be playing on his mind, surely.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that separates a good driver from a great driver. Just being able to see that gap closing, but still hit your marks and keep your confidence about you that you have enough of a lead to make it to the end of the race and win the race. So I think that's one of the biggest things. We see the 21 having issues there of Mark McDonald off the track and coming back on. So, but going back to that, it's definitely one of those things where the great drivers can keep that confidence, keep their wits about them, and be able to hold on to the end of the race.
Yep, I have to agree with you. That's why I commentate rather than drive, because I would be going, oh no, come on, white flag, where are you? And all the while then you miss a braking point and you're in the gravel. That's the story of my iRacing career. 137.287. Oh, and Koiter is quicker, but like you say, Brian, little bit too little, too late for Koiter. Just over a tenth quicker on that lap there. So he's pushing, he's trying, he's throwing everything at it, is the Dutchman. But would you say 2 laps to go now? Herbigno, well, what can you say about him? Didn't give up in race 1 after that incident. Went in, got his fast repair, got as far up the grid as he could, and then he has driven Well, he's quite frankly driven a flawless race here in the crucial feature in this opening round of the Apex Racing Academy F3 VRS Super Series. Hope I've said that right.
Yeah. So, and the other thing there is, I mean, at the moment when they cross that line, Quarter could run a second faster per lap, and he still would not be able to get there. And I don't think you're going to see him run a second faster per lap. I do think he's going to run faster, especially because I think this is the moment when Christophe Herbigno can kind of slow down the pace a little bit and just make sure he hits his marks and stays on track, because we've seen so many people throughout this race just make their own mistakes and cost them their own race. So he's got to make sure he doesn't do that. But as I say that, it actually stretches from 2.2 seconds all the way back to 2.5, the gap. So Herbigno just being able to run consistent right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 28 of Sam Coitert there getting held up by the 85 of Andre McCullen, the Jamaican, coming into Ascari. There wasn't enough time for Andre to get out of the way, and of course it's all one line through there, and that really hampered Coitert. They were coming through Ascari, so that, like you say, Brian, that could be critical with Herbigno quicker on that lap, and the gap stays at 2.5 seconds. So you called it. He's now taken the white flag. So we are on the final lap here at Autodromo Internazionale Monza. Sorry, I've butchered that, and my apologies. Number 12. Well, I have to say, I'm very impressed with it. Look at that, 1 minute 36.9 from the number 12 of David Holland. I have to say, Brian, I'm very, very impressed at his recovery drive as well. This could be critical when we come to the end of the championship.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's one of those things where, like we mentioned, you can't give up. He had an issue at the start of the race where he had to come down pit road. You expected him to be up towards the front, running towards winning the race after a second place finish in the heat. But he was able to just battle back, and now he's up to that 8th position, looking at 7th to possibly try and get here. That's the main battle that's going on track, as it looks like Herbigno, again, is just, he's got such a large lead right now. As you can see Coitert in the background there, but that's not close enough for Coitert unless Herbigno makes a mistake.
Yeah, so it's going to be, well, certainly a Benelux 1-2 with a Belgian and a Dutchman coming through. It's going to be Herbigno, though. Christophe Herbigno, the number 3 in the bright pink machine here, is going to be your feature race winner. After problems in Heat 1, he comes through to win the big one. As Sam Coitert finishing in second. A great night for him with the number 68 of Hugh Barter, the Australian, coming in, rounding out the podium in 3rd place. And look at this battle. Holland getting up. Is he going to make it to 7th position? It's going to be a drag race down the front straight, heading towards the line. It looks like it's going to be the number 12 of Holland. It is, just pipping the 23 of George Zuine.
Yeah, and this was such a great race here, and we see coming through the AM class here, we kind of what comes around goes around, is Nick Brown ended up winning the AM series class here right now for this race. So in the lead early, has a big incident, has to pit and get it fixed, comes all the way back and takes the win for that class. So big props to him for not giving up, pushing all the way until the end and not making another mistake after that big incident.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Brian. I think that's a theme that we're going to see all the way through the season, where it's never over till it's over. Normally something we say about 12-hour races and 24-hour races, but even in this sprint format with the potential attrition rates being very, very high, I think it could be big. So here's your race results then. Christophe Herbigno, the number 3, the Belgian, wins by 2.5 seconds from Sam Coitert in the 28 machine. Rounding out the podium, Hugh Barter in the 68, the Australian, making amends for that unfortunate incident in the first race. 4th was Mitch Green, with Dave McDonald rounding out the top 5. Dan Cranefist was in 6th, and David Holland in 7th. A brilliant recovery drive from him after an early incident. 8th was Georgie Zuine, with Mark McDonald in 9th, and Greg Seitz rounding out the top 10. So all pro class runners making up that top 10. Your AM class winner, Nick Brown, like you said, Brian, number 31, really never giving up and getting to the front of that class. Brett Pancari, unfortunately, was leading in the number 35 Jordan Parjo, but just made a little mistake and he came in second, but a good bag of points nonetheless. Andre McCullen, the Jamaican, in 13th. 14th was Fahan Lamp. 15th, Isaac Schneider. 16th, Brian Vors. 17th, Marco Holterman. 18th was Nico Nolivos. 19th, Gianni Espinosa. 20th, Aaron Smith. 21st, Charles Bear. 22nd, Joshua Jensen. 23rd, Steve Brown. 24th, Shivan Ballou. 25th, Jay Steffi. And running out the field, 26th, Jose Malbran. So, Brian, do we have anyone wanting to come in and have a little chat with us for an interview? Can you see anyone in the interview waiting room?
It looks like we have Nick Brown coming to join us, our AM winner of that race.
Well, let's get him in and have a chat because I want to hear all about that opening incident. Nick Brown, AM class winner in the opening race of the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 Super Series. Nick, that was certainly an eventful race for you. Tell us about it.
Oh, it was a very eventful race. Had a great start, fighting for the lead. Come to lap 2, just had a bit of contact and obviously had to stop because I had my spotter watching for me, telling me I had damage, so I stopped early. Big shout out to Callum for that one. And then just kept pushing ever since after that and watched everything unfold in front of me.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was a really tight battle, three wide going there into the second chicane. We were certainly talking about it a lot in commentary, how not only keeping out of trouble here is going to be big, very much important in this series, but also we've seen a couple of drivers, not just yourself today, never give up and come in and get the fast repair, and it's amazing how much of a result you can pull out. Is that going to be a big strategy as we head into the rest of the season?
I think it will be for some of the races, especially places like Bathurst, where if you touch the wall, it's kind of game over. So I think using your fast repair and keep pushing is going to be the way forward from now on.
Absolutely. And of course, we've got some, you mentioned Bathurst, we've got some iconic tracks on the calendar. We've got Imola, Bathurst, Laguna Seca next up. Which one's your favourite out of that bunch?
I've got to give it to Imola. I love Imola, especially in these little F3 cars. The best thing apart from Monza.
It is special. It is very, very special indeed. Now, you're our first guest here on Apex Racing TV for this series, so there's that small honour to take away along with your AM-class win. While you're live here on Apex Racing TV, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out to on the broadcast?
I give a shout-out to my team owner, Callum. He was spotting for me tonight. He said he wasn't going to stay up, but he did. And he just helped me keep me motivated from when I had to take my fast repair, and just kept giving me the information I needed to push and just keep it clean. So a big shout out to him.
Well, congratulations, Nick, on your big win, and hopefully we'll have another chat next time out at Laguna Seca. Go and enjoy that victory.
Cheers, thanks a lot. We're hiring my brothers.
So that was Nick Brown, your AM class winner, with a brilliant recovery drive to win his class today. Well, Brian, that certainly for me, that didn't disappoint. Our opening race of the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 Series. What were your feelings after that race at Monza today?
I think we got to see a great show. We got to see a little bit of what we expected, I think, where these guys are kind of still learning where to go around one another, what each other are going to do, and how each person is going to race you. We saw some incidents where guys just didn't give each other room going through some of the chicanes or around any of the big areas, honestly. And it kind of just shows you what's to come and how that person's going to be around you later on. So you know what you need to do to keep yourself from getting wrecked if that person is driving very aggressively. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this race showed just what the series can produce in terms of the exciting action that we get to see. And we got to see, again, a different winner and what the invert can really do after the heat race. So I think it's just going to put a lot of different names up front, and it's going to make things very exciting moving forward.
Completely agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more, Brian. The that amazing race out at Monza today. Now, I believe we actually have time for one more interview. I believe we have Aaron Smith. Can we get him in for a chat?
Yeah.
We have him in. Aaron,
Hello.
welcome to the commentary box here on Apex Racing TV. Tell us about your race.
Well, just at the start there, I was just kind of hoping for, really to fight at the front, especially with Nick, and I think it was Ethan up there as well. And I was just kind of knowing that, the pro drivers would eventually catch us up, and I was trying to stay out of trouble, but I think it was lap 2, I just got a bit greedy, went 3 wide, and it didn't really end well, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's going to be hard battling all season long. Now, I noticed on the broadcast, Aaron, that you've got a Damon Hill replica helmet, or a Graham Hill replica helmet. Tell us about that. Are you, I take it you're a big fan?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Damon Hill, one of my all-time favourite drivers. Obviously I'm not old enough to have watched him, but, watching him, claw cars that realistically shouldn't have been fighting for wins, 1997 Hungary, for example, just seeing him fight for a win, especially just is so inspirational. And obviously he has his off moments. 1999 springs to mind, but yeah, I think he's a really good driver and probably the most underrated Formula 1 world champion.
I have to agree with you, and I don't know if you've read his book. I'm reading it at the moment. It's very, very good. Have you had a look at that? I
should probably have a look at that.
I can highly recommend it. If you're a fan, I'm sure you will enjoy it indeed. Anyway, this we're now at risk of sounding like the Damon Hill podcast here, Aaron. So I'll let we shall move on. Now, while you're live here on Apex Racing TV, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
I don't know if any of my friends are still awake. If they are, thanks Jack, Kovan, Tom, Harvey, and anyone else in here. You guys have shown great support, and I hope you can keep up the support for the coming weeks.
Fantastic, and hopefully we'll see you in the coming weeks. Thanks for coming to join us, Aaron.
Thank you.
So that was Aaron Smith in the number 42 machine, a big Damon Hill fan. There you go. So that's about all that we have time for here live on Apex Racing TV. It's been an absolute pleasure to call this opening race of the Apex Racing Academy F3 Super Series. Next time, we are off to Laguna Seca in California, in Monterey. A completely different challenge for our drivers than at Monza. Quite a short circuit, quite undulating, and very, very tricky indeed. And overtaking track position is going to be very, very hard earned indeed when we head there. So same time next week, we'd love to have your company on Apex Racing TV. Well, on behalf of myself and my colleagues Brian Delp and Marco Barbonera, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in a week's time at Laguna Seca.